Most career advice assumes something about you. It assumes that clarity comes from narrowing, that success comes from choosing one thing early, that if you feel scattered or pulled in many directions, the problem must be commitment. But for many people, that advice doesn't create clarity. It creates anxiety. You look at your life and see many interests, paths that all feel meaningful. And instead of feeling motivated, you feel stuck. Not because you're afraid of work, but because choosing one thing feels like abandoning the others. So the real question is this: what if having too many interests isn't a motivation problem, but a career design problem? For most of the last century, careers were built for a predictable world. Industries were stable. Roles were clear. If you learned one skill deeply and stayed in one lane, the system rewarded you. Psychologists call this a predictable learning environment. It favors repetition and specialization. This is where the idea of the specialist came from, the person with deep knowledge in one narrow area. But that is not the world we live in anymore. Today, work is far less predictable. Roles change, skills overlap, problems are messy and rarely come with clear instructions. In cognitive science, this is closer to a complex environment, where rules shift and feedback is delayed. In this kind of world, narrow expertise alone often isn't enough. This is where people with many interests feel friction, not because they lack focus, but because the system around them doesn't explain how their minds work. Most career advice thinks in job titles. A more useful way is to think in shapes. A traditional specialist looks like a vertical line, deep knowledge in one area. At the other extreme is staying shallow, knowing a little about everything but never feeling grounded. There is another shape, one built over time, not all at once. A career with multiple deep pillars, connected by a broad understanding of how systems work. This person isn't distracted. They are integrative. Psychologists call this far transfer, recognizing patterns in one field and applying them in another. This value doesn't come from knowing more things. It comes from knowing how things connect. But many curious people make the same mistake. They try to build everything at once. That doesn't lead to integration. It leads to exhaustion. The solution isn't choosing forever. It's choosing sequentially. Commit deeply to one area for a season, long enough to build competence, long enough to feel stable, not as a prison, but as a platform. When that pillar is strong, you don't lose it. You carry it forward. Then you build the next one, intentionally, not impulsively. This isn't quitting, it's graduation. There's a practical reality many ignore. Curiosity requires energy. If your job drains all your mental bandwidth, there is nothing left to explore. A job can be more than income. It can be structural support. Finally, people with many interests face one more challenge. Their minds generate more ideas than they can hold. Working memory is limited. Curiosity is not. Without an external system, ideas pile up. Overwhelm follows. Capture ideas outside your head. Let them rest. Years later, they often return, unexpectedly useful. So reframe the story. If you have many interests, you are not broken. You are not unfocused. You are not failing. Your mind is designed for connection, not compression. The problem was never your curiosity. It was forcing it into the wrong structure. When you see that clearly, the anxiety fades, replaced not by certainty, but by clarity. If this explanation resonated, pause for a moment. Not to decide your future, but to recognize your pattern. You don't need a final answer. You need a better frame, one that lets depth grow without killing curiosity, and progress happen without self-blame. That frame changes everything. Slowly, calmly, intentionally, with clarity and trust.